Hello there, right here, and we finally got it, guys. A whole bunch of new changes with this snapshot. This is version 21W13A, and with this newest version of the Caves and Cliffs update, we have a lot to look forward to, including the new ghost and a new invisible light block, plus a whole bunch of changes. I will be reviewing all of them, so let's get started. And remember, hit that subscribe button, as the majority of people who watch my video haven't already, and I really appreciate everyone who has. Also, check out all the crazy tricks I discover, as well as simple farms and contraptions. And after watching this video, hop over to my live stream where we're going to be testing all these new features on my test server. Big thanks to Bisect Hosting for hosting this server. You can check them out with the link down below where you get 25% off your first month. They have finally added goats into the game of Minecraft for the Java edition. You can get a spawn egg, and they look like this. Kind of have shaggy hair, and then they also have 2 horns, and they will spawn in mountain biomes already here in the Java edition. Even though we don't have the new mountains, you can find them in these biomes, which we know as the old extreme hills. They have some pretty cool properties where they can jump extremely high, up to 10 blocks tall. Look at this guy right here. This little guy, you can jump really high. And they can be tempted like other mobs by having wheat in your hand. They all follow you, and you can also breed these using wheat. Notice that the babies don't have any horns, but the adults have 2 horns. And the adults can also be milked, so this is another source of getting a bucket of milk. Because they could jump so high, they also don't take damage when they fall far distances. So if it's less than 10 blocks, they don't take damage, but if it's a really big fall, then they can take damage and die like other mobs. Currently, when you kill them, they don't drop anything, but they'll probably drop some of the stuff as a Bedrock edition, which is the mutton. Now, some of the other properties, like goats bunting the player and them dropping their horn, haven't been added into Java yet. There's also an option to toggle the color of the background, the Mojang Studio logo when it appears. Let's turn that on. So now you can see it's a black background. That's much nicer on the eyes than the red one. They also did some cave tweaks, including increasing the max height in which these pillars can hold up the mine shafts and how far down chains can come down to support the different pieces. They also made caves a lot less likely to be flat when traversing them. And you could definitely see this as everything's really rugged and definitely looks a lot more chaotic when you're looking at it. They also increase the likelihood of having mega caves, which I think is pretty cool. And they decrease the chance of having a toothpick pillar, which are just the really narrow ones. They also made the cheese caves have more variation, as well as making them interesting. They also did some small tweaks to do with how ore generates. They added in slightly more iron, and they made the diamond blobs, which are down here, a little bit larger. You might have also noticed that we now have the dripstone in the normal game instead of having to go to a special world to find this stuff, but it is quite rare to find in the normal caves. They also change how high up the deep slate can go. So now deep slate can actually go higher than Y level 0. So here are some right at Y level 14-ish. And it can actually have blobs of this stuff appear between Y level 0 and 16, meaning that you're trying to go after diamonds, and you try to avoid that by going above the deep slate stuff because it's harder to mine. You're going to still run into some of it up here. And they finally added Axolotls to the natural spawning in the game, as well as glow squid. We just found some here at Y level -32, and they will spawn in underground water sources. I think this is really cool. It brings some of the features that we've seen, like during the Minecraft Live, into the actual game. And these axolotls do go after mobs, so if there's any squid, glow squid, or tropical fish, cod, salmon, pufferfish, drowned guardians, or elder guardians, they will attack them. And this is exactly what I used in my new squid and fish farm. They also changed it so axolotls have a 2-minute cooldown after hunting a non-hostile target, such as a fish or a squid. That way they just don't decimate the whole area. This does mean we're going to have to add more of them into my squid farm in order to get better rates. And they will have priority over hostile mobs rather than just going out and hunting. This means you could use them to kill like drowns or guardians, but since they aren't considered a player kill, it's not really worth it. They also made some other changes, like bees will now be able to get nectar from flowering azalea leaves as well as a flowering azalea. And you can use them to breed them. They made a few changes to powder snow. They made it so the blast resistance is a little bit harder. Here's the current one, and this is how it used to be in the past, a lot bigger hole. The freeze time is also decreased to a 7-second start and then every 2 seconds will give you the freeze damage. This will make it much nicer to use an actual damaging system. You don't have to wait so long for the mob to end up dying or getting to low health. Mobs that are on fire when they touch the powder snow are going to end up extinguishing the block, and it just vanishes. So you can no longer make a little setup where it had lava right beside it and it just kept burning you and extinguishing it. It also increased the vertical movement speed when inside of it. Strays, polar bears, and snow golems are now going to be immune to the freezing damage that the powder snow would give. That means we can make farms where only strays spawn in or only polar bears spawn in, using this feature similar to my Wither Rose farm. Mobs will now visually start shaking when they are fully frozen. Now skeletons only take 7 seconds to convert into a stray, instead of the 30 seconds it took before. Horses that have leather armor will be protected from the freeze damage. Now mobs like Blaze, Magma Cubes, and Striders will start taking immediate damage when they touch the powdered snow, instead of needing that 7 seconds before starting. So this could be a good method to use inside of a Blaze farm. They also added some new trades to villagers and wandering traders. For Mason, he will now sell 4 dripstone blocks for 1 emerald, making that a renewable resource, since currently dripstone doesn't grow on its own. And for wandering traders, they added so they will sell 2 pointed dripstones for 1 emerald, and they'll also sell 2 rooted dirt for 1 emerald, and 2 moss blocks for 1 emerald. This is great for skyblock, where you can kind of get a good start even in a world without these naturally generated blocks. You can also find the moss blocks in shipwrecks, chests, as well as glowberries can be found in mineshaft chest minecarts. They also added a new light block in the game that is for op-only people. You do /give air, and then you can specify what you want, and it's able to emit light at the level determined by the block state. It's also only visible like the barrier block, so you can't see it unless you're actually holding it, and you can right click to cycle through the light levels. They also mentioned that they are no longer going to remove unused parts of the code. They also did a whole bunch of bug fixes in this snapshot. A lot of those fixes do affect the game and could be seen as features. Let's go over them. In the past, end portal frames were invisible from underneath, and now they will render on both sides. Guardians that are set on fire will now be able to drop their fish also being cooked, just like other mobs. This has also been changed for polar bears, which also drop fish. Now there will be cooked fish. Zombies that are on fire can now have a chance of dropping baked potatoes instead of just a normal potato when killed, similar to other mobs being on fire dropping their cooked versions. There are a few unused textures that they removed, like this arrow here, and these letters, the footprint item, which was from April Fools, this piglin leather layer, and another old piglin leather layer. Also this old recipe background, and the ruby from way back when villagers were first added. They also removed these icons when they used to have Twitch integrated, meaning that you could start streaming to Twitch directly from Minecraft. And this old villager zombie texture. They said they're still keeping this debug texture, probably for testing reasons, and we've seen this appear in the past during the development of new blocks. They also said the dither here is being used, so they won't remove it. There was also a problem that the player would be kicked from the game if they would go above Y level 3 million. If you made a custom recipe and you used the air block to do it, it would crash the game. They fixed a problem to do with different mobs not keeping their information when being scooped up in a bucket. It seems with Axolotls, when you pick them up and put them down, they would change colors, and now that has been fixed in the recent snapshot. They fixed a problem that we noticed, which was mobs that were on leash would have the leash sound reapplied to them when reloading a world, which would sound very strange. The advancement "cover me with diamonds" was improperly capitalized. In the past, some tree types, when they would grow, wouldn't change the grass block underneath them into a dirt block. Now they do. This includes large oak trees. Cauldrons with different stuff inside them can still be used as villager workstations. There was a problem that some mobs, when they walked on top of the powder snow, would end up just spinning around in circles. It also changed it so now mobs that can actually get damaged by the powder snow will no longer spawn directly inside of it. They probably did this to make it similar to like Wither Roses, which does mean it loses some of its kind of interesting properties. That means we can force some mobs not to spawn while forcing others to spawn. They also added some compatibilities, like in Bedrock Edition, when you fall on powder snow with leather boots on, you don't actually take any fall damage. Stone cutters were always rotating to the right when you look at them. This means they're actually rotating 2 different directions. So this guy is rotating that way, and you notice now he's rotating that way. There was a problem that sometimes XP orbs were still not going into tools with the mending enchantment to repair them, but instead going into your hotbar, especially when you pick up a lot of them all at once. That has now been fixed. Suspicious stew can now be consumed even when you have full hunger. This will make it much more useful and will make the advancement where you get all the different potion effects at once much easier. Turtles laying eggs onto red sand will now produce red particles instead of the normal sand ones. See, Pickle's top part weren't rendering correctly. They finally added it so that you can put out candle flames with a bottle of water. Splash 1. When they first came out candles, I noticed this. I'm glad that they fixed this because it makes it consistent with other things like campfires that can be put out. Bottom of the lightning rod, you can see the texture is quite strange and it was actually incorrectly mapped. It's now possible to pick block the different variations of cauldrons like lava, water, or powder snow. This is due to a change that they made a while ago that I talked about, where these are now considered new blocks and not the actual cauldron block. It changes so powder snow will now act like snow layers, where they change the underlining block to also be snow-like. But they load a crossbow in the offhand and a spyglass in the main hand would cause a very strange looking effect. Warlock Candles will now be able to be lit. Placing a structure block using a set block command was always setting it to a different mode than if you would get the block yourself and then place it. Be able to crouch and place in candles beside it rather than place them in a group, but this wasn't working with turtle eggs. If I right click it, if I would crouch and click on the side, it wasn't placing it over here, and that's been fixed. It fixed it so more stairs will be used in the stair category, which you can search by doing this. Breeding 2 axolotls are now necessary in order to get to the advancement 2x2, where you breed up 2 of every animal. There was a problem that axolotls were not fighting elder guardians. They also fixed a transparent pixel on these guys. Still, the maps were turning blank when you would take them into the nether dimension, the end dimension. There was a problem that you couldn't take just half a stack out of the furnace, but now you will be able to. They addressed the problem to do with when shulkers rotate, sometimes their hitbox would still show up and down when they were now sideways. They finally solved the issue, so now axolotls will be able to give regeneration to players as well as remove their mining fatigue. The rooted dirt will now be moved with all the other dirt in creative menu. They fixed the Z fighting that would sometimes occur with the Azalea. Water was treating moss blocks like air. We thought this was actually a new feature of it, but they changed it so now it will end up making an infinite water source, when before it would be like this. Now most things will be able to be placed on top of rooted dirt like flowers and grass and etc. You'll now be able to pick block the drip leaf stem. Now signs, banners, paintings, and item frames can be placed onto moss blocks. You can also turn rooted dirt into path blocks. Moss blocks lost some more of their cool properties. Now they will kill farmland and path blocks when they are placed above them. They fixed a trick where you could come in and rotate big drip leaf a different direction. They changed it so no longer fence will connect with Azalea. Rooted dirt will now mine at the same speed as normal dirt instead of being kind of fast. You're now able to place cake on top of moss block. Now when converting blocks into moss blocks, it will update any redstone around it. Rooted dirt can now be picked up by endermen as well. Gateway portals can be given custom coordinates, and if you would set the coordinates very high, it would kick the player. Rooted dirt will now also be randomly turned like other blocks in the game. The back of the ladder was actually mirrored incorrectly from the front side. You can see the shadow side is on the right, and now the shadow side should be over here, but now it's still on the right. They fixed this in quite a few different blocks, including vines, props, chain block, a lantern, and a mirroring problem with the powder snow from the inside. They also fixed this mirroring problem with like lichen, tripwire, and other stuff. Waterlogged dripstone weren't actually dropping when they were broken off. If you didn't have anything selected in your chat and you did Control C, it would clear your clipboard. Now this is something I ran into, but I didn't quite understand what was going on. You might notice that if you copy some text in Minecraft and then you went to go paste it in somewhere else, all of a sudden it wouldn't paste in anything. And this is what was causing that. The moss block also lost another cool feature, which was rain used to pass right through them. So now you can no longer use them like in AFK fish farms for higher rates. Despite the world limit being now at 320, the warning was given at 319. Small drip leaf will be able to be placed on rooted dirt if it's waterlogged. Some advancements weren't given to the player if they would shift click stuff into their inventory rather than drag it. They changed it so you can no longer put text directly into an anvil unless you have items in it now. There was a problem that mine shafts would sometimes generate with their support legs inside of lava, which would immediately catch them on fire. So now they don't do that anymore. They now made it so if you open a UI, the background will get darker more than what it is currently. Spectating mobs when they're in water would sometimes cause you to crash. You can now once again mine up amethyst blocks to obtain the items. Hanging root will now be able to be instant mined instead of taking about 1 second to mine up. This will make my hanging root farm much faster. They also added this change to drip leaf so that it will be mined up instantly. They also fixed some rendering issues to do with fog and how it interacted with different overlays. They also fixed some different particles and how they appear in the game. So they did quite a few bug fixes in this version. Many of them could be seen as kind of new features added into the game and will affect how we design our farms and machines in the future. And we'll be playing around with all these new changes during our snapshot stream. The viewers can join me in these new cave worlds, so make sure to join my Twitch link down below as well as my Discord where you can find the IP of the server. Don't forget to leave a like and share this video so other people can learn about everything that's coming out with 1.17. I'd like to thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys over at my stream. Bye bye!